Look at this map of Europe, with its clearly defined borders and distinct countries. Now look at the same continent in 1789. It is a fragmented, overlapping mess of feudal territories, empires, and local kingdoms. The modern nations we take for granted did not exist. Before the 18th century ended, the very idea of being a citizen would have sounded absurd to most people. They lived as subjects, defined by their relationship to a crown or a local lord, within a hierarchy that offered no concept of a national identity. The French Revolution shattered that entire system. A population successfully demanded legal rights and declared themselves a united citizenry tied to a shared homeland, or la patrie. This shift in authority allowed a newly wealthy middle class, enriched by early industrialization, to step forward. They had capital, and now they demanded the political representation to match it. The old regimes panicked. At the Congress of Vienna in 1815, monarchies like Britain, Austria, Russia, and Prussia allied to reinstate kings and aggressively crush dissent. But the public had already tasted liberty. They looked to replace empires with sovereign states, yet they lacked a clear method for constructing a functional country from the ground up. State building requires standardizing the daily life of millions of people. You cannot run a functional country if the population is divided by internal borders and conflicting rules at every town line. In the early 19th century, moving goods required navigating a logistical nightmare. A merchant traveling a few dozen miles might have to stop and pay local tariffs to 5 different rulers to sell a cart of wheat. A pragmatic solution arrived in 1834 with the Zollverein. This was a sweeping customs union initiated by Prussia to physically and economically connect the fragmented German states. The Zollverein wiped out internal toll checkpoints across the region, standardized weights and measures, and slashed 30 local currencies to just 2. As internal barriers fell, cross-border trade expanded, generating significant wealth and creating deep interdependence between previously isolated territories. The Zollverein demonstrated that before a population could share a flag, they first had to be bound by the practicalities of a shared economy. While economic convenience provides a compelling reason to trade, it rarely provides a reason to go to war. To forge a country, the architects needed to manufacture a shared soul. They turned to Romanticism. Artists, poets, and philosophers deliberately used culture as a tool to bind people together emotionally, cultivating the feeling that they were part of an ancient natural family. When Poland was swallowed by the Russian Empire, the composer Karol Karpinski fought back through music. He staged operas and traditional folk dances to preserve a Polish identity, using rhythm and art as a direct form of cultural resistance against erasure. Language became a powerful weapon as well. In France, the government aggressively promoted the specific French dialect spoken in Paris, systematically overriding dozens of regional languages to force total linguistic unity. They even created visual mascots. Figures like Marianne in France and Germania in Germany were designed to give the masses a tangible, vulnerable motherland figure to protect. By weaving together language, art, and myth, these architects transformed arbitrary legal boundaries into deep emotional bonds, making the nation feel ancient and permanent. Economics and poetry have a hard limit. You cannot physically draw new national borders while massive empires still occupy the land. Finalizing the new map required calculated military aggression, a reality that played out violently in the unification of Germany. This is Otto von Bismarck, the Prussian chief minister who engineered the modern German state. He ruthlessly instigated 3 major wars against Denmark, Austria, and France in just 7 years, forcibly stitching the German territories together by 1871. Further south, Italy's unification relied on a different force. Here we see Giuseppe Garibaldi, a seasoned revolutionary who took the fight directly to the streets. Garibaldi amassed an army of thousands of volunteers known as the Red Shirts. They led sweeping uprisings as they marched south through the Italian peninsula to seize the foreign-controlled kingdom of the Two Sicilies. Garibaldi didn't keep the land he conquered. He handed the southern territories to northern elites, consolidating the country under King Victor Emmanuel II, pictured here. The transition from fragmented regions to a single kingdom relied on calculated strategy and military conquest. Modern borders were drawn in blood. By the turn of the 20th century, The map of Europe had been successfully redrawn. The scattered feudal domains were gone, replaced by powerful nation-states. But the system contained a fatal flaw. Once the intense machinery of nationalism was turned on, it couldn't easily be shut down, and it quickly mutated into aggressive, exclusionary imperialism. Look closely at this crowd. Nationalism enabled widespread mobilization, turning entire populations into patriotic forces eager to demonstrate their country's superiority against rival nations. This tension reached a boiling point in the Balkans. As the Ottoman Empire weakened, newly unified ethnic groups violently clashed over the remaining territory, sparking localized wars that threatened to pull in the entire continent. The creation of the nation-state provided citizens with rights and a shared identity. However, the fierce tribalism used to build those borders provided the exact ignition point for the First World War.